Hello, fellow book lovers, both readers and writers. I am Matty Dalrymple. I write the Ann Kinnear Suspense Novels and Suspense Shorts and the Lizzy Ballard Thrillers, and I also write, speak, podcast, and consult on the writing craft and the publishing voyage as the indie author. And this is my video series, What I Learned, where I ask authors 2 questions related to their latest book. What did they learn from that book that they would like to share with their fellow writers? And what did they learn that they would like to share with their fellow readers? And I am here today with Kristina Adams. Hey, Kristina, how are you doing?
Hey, Matty, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, I am always pleased to chat with you. To give our viewers a little bit of background on you, Kristina Adams is the author of 18 books, 3 books for writers, and too many blog posts to count. She publishes mother-daughter ghost stories as K.C.Adams, and when she's not writing, she's playing with her dog or inflicting cooking experiments on her boyfriend. And her latest book is Hollywood Romance. And so today I'm asking Kristina the 2 What I Learned questions about Hollywood romance, starting with, what did you learn that you would like to share with your fellow writers?
So I would say be very careful of timelines and of writing books that have overlapping timelines because my very first book, What Happens in New York, overlaps with the previous book in the Hollywood series, Hollywood Heartbreak. And I didn't do a lot of planning when I first started out. I was very, very, very against planning. And it was only through interviewing other authors like yourself that I thought, oh, maybe there's benefit to that. And I started planning. But then when you get to the point in the series where you have to write that timeline overlap, it causes a headache or 12. And so that was really stressful. And it made Hollywood Heartbreak really hard to write. And because of that, I then needed a recovery period to write this book. Because even though I had planned later books in the What Happens in series, I'd even managed to read through all of them and take notes about the overlaps. The previous book was such a stressful process. It took me a lot longer to write this one than it normally would have. Because I published the first 5 Hollywood gossip books in about 2 years. And it's now been 27 months since book 5. And, being brutally honest, that has hurt sales because no one's heard from me in this genre for over 2 years. But at the same time, I had to take a break because I couldn't have written the book on a level that I'm happy with if I hadn't. And, the ARC reviews are starting to come in and readers are saying this is exactly the ending the characters deserved and they love it. But because Hollywood Heartbreak was so hard to write and then so was The Mean Girls Murder, which is the latest Afterlife Calls book, I was just so nervous, so panicked, so terrified of what beta readers would say, of what ARC readers would say, even though everyone has been really nice, even when they're like trying to get even more out of me and the characters kind of thing. And so I guess the other thing that builds on that is be nice to yourself because this is hard. And I don't think everyone realizes how hard it is sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. I'll put in a plug for the Indie Author Podcast episode 225, where you came on and talked about right timing a release strategy. And we talked a little bit about some of those stresses and how you dealt with them. When you were talking about the complexities of overlapping timelines, was that across books or within a book?
So Hollywood Heartbreak overlaps with What Happens in New York and What Happens in London. Like they're literally, the timelines are on top of each other. Some of the scenes are identical, but from different points of view, things like that. And then Hollywood Romance overlaps with What Happens in Barcelona and Paphos. And there were scenes that I didn't necessarily want to include in the Hollywood Gossip series, but the overlap was too heavy that it would have felt like I was leaving something out if I hadn't included them. And so it did really overcomplicate things. Um, and I have actually, one of my oldest friends is one of my best beta readers. And I've said to her, please do not let me do this ever again. Please, because she's got a better knowledge of my books than I have. Like, she actually read Hollywood Romance at the same time as rereading Barcelona and Paphos. So she was specifically looking for those overlaps for me to check for any inconsistencies. And honestly, I never would have thought to do that. And also my brain could not have concentrated. I couldn't have done it. I
That's
feel
very
I couldn't
cool
have done it.
to
And
have
I'm
a reader like
eternally
that.
grateful to her because she went above and beyond and it meant the world to me. And yeah, she picked up on some minor stuff that I wouldn't have noticed. Like most of it was minor, like a line a character said, and then like an internal monologue will contradict it. But that does make a difference, I think.
Yeah, it reminds me of years and years ago, I went to see a play in New York, and it was called something like House and Garden. And it was actually two plays. They must have a very limited number of places where they can put on this play because it had to be a facility where you would be able to host two plays, but the backstage area was connected because it was a murder mystery. It was like a comedic murder mystery, as I remember. And the two plays went on simultaneously. And if you were in one theater, you were seeing the house. And if you were in the other theater, you were seeing the garden. And it was all the same actors. And they were like running from place to place. So if you wanted to see both things, you would have to go to basically two plays. And that's just making me think that that would be a brilliant study for a writer who's trying to manage this coordination of timelines.
That sounds like such a good play as well, but also so complicated to like actually set up. But
Yeah.
such a cool concept. Like, Hollywood Gossip was meant to be one book. It was meant to be just about Tate and Jack's relationship, and then it spiraled to be because they have an on-off relationship. It's very complicated. And then it spiraled to being about Jack's career as a DJ, Tate's career as an actor, as a singer, as a businesswoman, and all of the trials and tribulations that come from that in a deeply sexist industry. And, Jack's an alcoholic dealing with his own issues, and they go through, friendship breakups as much as relationship breakups. And the one consistency is that they are always there for each other and they always come back to each other. But when I started planning this series in like 2009 or something, I never expected it to be this complicated. It was just meant to be a prequel about how Tate and Jack met, and then like have their happy ever after at the end, not be that much of a headache.
Yeah. Yeah, they the stories and the characters do take you places where you don't expect them to take you.
Oh, definitely.
So let's switch to what you learned that you would like to share with your fellow readers.
That one's harder, I think, but I would say be nice to writers. Understand that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I was reading a thread on Threads earlier about how hard it is to be an author who's constantly active on social media, and you can't talk about when you're having a bad day, and you've got to be Little Miss or Mr. or whatever your gender is, sunshine all the time. And it's exhausting because we just want to use all our time and energy to write, but it's more and more you've got to be on TikTok, you've got to be pushing your books, or you've got to have loads of money to invest in your books. And if not, then you're not ranking really high and you're a failure and all of this. And the pressure, regardless of how authors are published, I think is getting more and more, even though we're really just mostly hermits who just want to make up stories. We're not, in most cases, extroverts who want to be out there promoting ourselves all the time. And for most of us, it's really hard and it's really draining. And I'm very fortunate in that my community of readers, we do talk about mental health, very frankly. And I know that a lot of authors don't have that. They are very afraid to tell their readers when they're burnt out. But I think because so many of my books involve mental health or hospitalizing people, and I talk about my chronic illnesses quite a lot, it creates that deeper connection with my audience. I posted a video the other day about why Tate, the main character in Hollywood Gossip, has asthma, because you don't expect a singer who is at the top of her game to have asthma. And that was precisely why I wanted to make her asthmatic, because I'm asthmatic myself. And it drives me nuts that it is always the nerdy hermit that takes their inhaler wrongly when they're anxious. That's not the point of an inhaler. And so I think that awareness around invisible illnesses is really important. And I guess the other thing I would say to readers on top of that is to support authors who do talk about these things, to encourage readers to show support, to show understanding and empathy, and to read those diverse books regardless of genre, because we do need more stories about people from different cultures, about people who have disabilities, about people that experience the world differently for whatever reason that may be. And that's only going to happen if we support those authors who do tell those diverse stories.
Great advice. Great advice. So, Kristina, I know we have intrigued people to find out more about Hollywood romance among your other books. So please let them know where they can go to find out more about you and everything you do online.
So you can check out all my books at KristinaAdamsAuthor.com, and that is Kristina with a K, and Hollywood Romance is out on the 5th of April.
Congratulations.
Thank you.